Welcome, welcome, welcome to this Whole Life Action Hour. I am Ocean Robbins, and I am welcoming you, and I am so glad you are here with me right now. Today, we are focusing on cancer-kicking food and lifestyle tips. This is a project of Whole Life Club, and our focus is looking at how you can eat and live in a way to kick cancer. It is the most feared disease in the world. More than 90% of cancer cases are caused by a combination of diet, lifestyle, and environmental factors, not genetics. And today you're going to learn about how you can put that reality into action. You're going to learn about the critical importance of IGF-1, antioxidants, obesity, exercise, and other exposures, and how you can create a lifestyle that kicks cancer and prevents cancer. And you're going to find out what thousands of medical studies have revealed about the simple and little known choices that can slash your risk of cancer starting right now. I want to be very clear. Nothing you will hear today is medical advice. This is coaching. We're sharing our best insights. But of course, always consult with a qualified healthcare professional about your unique healthcare needs and medical journey. That said, we are going to learn a lot today. And I am just thrilled that we are here today with Dr. Kristi Funk. She is a board-certified breast cancer surgeon and physician, best-selling author, international keynote speaker, and women's health advocate. Dr. Funk practices as a surgical breast specialist at the Pink Lotus Breast Center in Los Angeles. She excels as an expert in minimally invasive diagnostic and treatment methods for all types of breast disease. Dr. Funk has helped thousands of women through breast cancer treatment, including some well-known celebrities, including Angelina Jolie and Sheryl Crow. She is an ambassador and avid contributor to the Pink Lotus Power Up community. And Dr. Funk hosts the newly launched Cancer Kicking Powwow podcast. She is the best-selling author of Breasts, a User's Manual. And oh my goodness, it goes on and on. Her extensive nutritional science research caused her to expand her passion for her medical practice with the life-empowering Cancer Kicking Summit, which teaches women and men how to maximally reduce their chances of facing cancer or any other controllable killer disease. Dr. Kristi Funk is also, I'm honored to say, a dear friend and an incredible light and inspiration, and a mother of triplets. Dr. Kristi Funk, welcome to this Whole Life Action Hour. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hi, Ocean. Thank you for inviting me.
We're thrilled to have you. And just a word of context for our members, we're hosting a series of 3 action hours this week. We had one with Dr. Neil Barnard on Saturday. Today we're with Dr. Funk. On Wednesday, we'll be on with Dr. Joel Furman. Whole Life Club paid members get lifetime access to all of these action hours and our entire library of past and future action hours, including transcripts and the chance to submit questions in advance, as well as the recipes, action of the week videos, a community of support, and a lot more. If you're interested in joining Whole Life Club, there is a special opportunity to do so this week. So make sure to stay on at the end to learn more about that. But now we're going to talk about cancer and kicking cancer and loving life. So Kristi, first off, tell us, you're a surgeon. And a lot of times surgeons focus very much on solving a problem that you have realized didn't ever need to happen in the first place.
Exactly.
But your training initially was not in prevention. What opened your eyes to a whole other approach to your practice?
So my training was in general surgery, and then I did a fellowship specifically in breast surgical oncology at Cedars-Sinai. And when I began at Cedars as one of the directors of their breast center, my niche was patient education. So I would give lectures to the community, and I would go, and there'd be like 4 people there, old ladies kind of half asleep in the background, just there for probably the free Cedars pens, I was guessing. So in order to spice up my talk, I started to dive into nutritional science and lifestyle medicine and really understand what was controllable about breast cancer and all of life's major killers that would kind of open people's eyes in the audience. Really, like pretty soon, within months, I had people taking copious notes on, okay, cinnamon, okay, green tea, okay. And it was pearls of wisdom. It wasn't like categorically this defined package and understanding that I had. We're talking 2001, 2, 3 at this time. But I did do that's when my eyes started to be open to the power of food, but it was really food components and just a few pearls here and there.
Yeah.
So if we fast forward all the way to when I wrote Breast, the Owner's Manual, and I was busy writing that in 2017, my real mind-blowing, never going to turn back moment came when I did my deep dive. I did the book writing by myself, no ghostwriter. I did my own deep dive into nutritional science to really understand why I was so correct and I, incorrectly, was eating a Mediterranean diet. So lots of fruits and vegetables, that part's good. But on every single meal, I had something, whether it was feta cheese or a boneless, skinless chicken breast or a beautiful big salmon fillet. I constantly had animal protein and animal fat at every single meal, you know, thinking it was the good choice, non-fat Greek yogurt, etc. Well, when I did my said deep dive, I was so shocked and frankly a little upset and offended by my own medical training after all of those years, right? Medical school, residency, fellowship, all of this training, not a peep about nutrition, just the Krebs cycle maybe, how to make ATP energy, but nothing about the tremendous power of food, of plant food, and just as importantly, the tremendous destructive energy of animal protein and animal fat. And it was in those weeks and weeks of pouring into science, and we're not talking like Green Leaf Foofy Journal magazine. We're talking Lancet, JAMA. These are major publications that are showing over and over again randomized controlled trials or longitudinal studies that have a ton of weight behind them. And so it was in that endeavor to write the book that this is a funny, cute story. So one day I had enough. I had just finished reading the IARC's ruling from July 2015 on processed meat and red meat, deeming all processed meat, so everything that you might think of as delicious like sausage and bacon and even sliced turkey chicken breast, right, in the deli section, is absolutely carcinogenic to humans, right? On par with tobacco, asbestos, plutonium, et cetera. So I had read that study, and that was the end of it. I heard you mentioned I have triplets, so our 3 sons came home from school. I could hear them scurrying downstairs into the house, and I run down, and I go over to the refrigerator, and I open it up with dramatic flair, and I say, boys, we're going vegan. And they were just 8 at the time, and they go, yeah, what is vegan? Such a great moment. And I kid you not, we dumped out that fridge, filled up 4 grocery bags to the brim with the salmon fillet, the chicken, my stay out of here mom's therapy drawer that was filled with 5-year-age Gouda and Manchego and the like. And all of this filled these bags. We went over a mile away to my 87-year-old parents, and we were like, here, it's too late for you. No.
Oh dear.
We don't believe that. I don't believe it's actually ever too late, but I will tell you, my parents would have disowned me, having been grown up in, depression babies, if I had thrown away all that perfectly good carcinogenic food. So, but we never looked back. That was the end. We watched What the Health that night so that they could gain a better understanding of why mommy had decided to make this big transition. And, we're coming up on 3 years. It's been nothing but empowering and wonderful for myself, my family, and now my entire practice.
It's interesting you're sharing on a personal level, but I think that what we see with a lot of doctors is that their personal habits impact their professional advice. So a lot of doctors will say that, sure, a whole foods plant-based diet is optimal, lifestyle changes are optimal, but compliance is the issue. Their patients won't actually do it. And I wonder if sometimes they might be kind of projecting that they are resistant to applying what they've actually learned. So they're actually putting that on their patients.
You're 100% right there. They think if I can't do it, you can't do it. Like, I had the willpower to make it through med school, and I am still going to have, a hamburger for lunch.
Right. So,
I think also they haven't seen the science in a way that impacts them. Just as we know in the 50s and 60s, the science on tobacco smoke and its ill effects was probably not readily embraced by the average physician who had a Marlboro pack in his front pocket, right?
Yeah, sure. Recently, a couple years ago, my aunt went through a bout of cancer, bladder cancer, and she had to have her bladder removed. It was a very scary process, chemo, the whole 9 yards. We really didn't know if she would survive. I'm so grateful to say that she made it through. What I'm not grateful for is that not once in her entire medical journey did any of the oncologists she worked with ever say a word about food. And I think that they believed that they were being kind to her by not wanting to disrupt her life as she was going through such a tough time. Like, why take away whatever pleasure she had? And conventional wisdom is that someone going through chemo has a hard enough time getting any calories to stay down, and they should just eat whatever the heck they can to not lose weight. But you know, and I know that her odds of recurrence are very different based on what she does now. You know, what should her doctors have said to her?
Well, had they known themselves, which I'm going to make an assumption that they themselves don't realize the power of nutrition in healing and in actually literally seeking out and destroying bladder cancer cells, or breast, as my patient population would be focused on. What they should have done was created a real excitement around how much power your aunt would have against this disease, that it wasn't just chemo that would be coursing through her veins. It would be the life-promoting power of phytochemicals, of plant-based nutrients, right? We just chew and swallow a broccoli floret. What people don't realize is the isothiocyanates become sulforaphanes, which literally seek out and destroy cancer cells as those phytochemicals are absorbed through your gut lining into the bloodstream, coursing through your body, saturating cell after cell, creating what's called a cell microenvironment. And that tumor cell microenvironment is like sitting in a tiny little bathtub, its own personal tub of what? Of either components and other cells that are crying out pro-cancer. Like, here's some inflammation, here's estrogens, here's growth hormones, here's IGF-1. Here's what you need, little cancer cell, to multiply and divide and eventually create an escape route. Or is that little bathtub, is that microenvironment screaming out anti-cancer, lower inflammation, lower free radicals, lower angiogenesis, the creation of blood vessels to bring nutrients. So what those doctors should have said was, look, there is such power in a whole food plant-based diet. And what does even that mean? That means that you're going to eat tons of fruits and vegetables, legumes, lentils, beans, peas, nuts. You're going to savor this food. We've got recipes for you. We have a cooking class for you, right? This would be my dream thing, that they would be able to say and offer. And not only that, we have supportive groups for you. Emotional support, psychosocial support is so important. There was this one study looking at 2,000 survivors, LACE, the Life After Cancer Epidemiology Study, right? And they evaluated, this is key, they were all diagnosed with early stage breast cancer. So stages 1 and 2, 5-year survival is 99% here. And they evaluated, based on self-reporting, high versus low psychosocial support or involvement in church or synagogue, etc., and then followed them out for 10 years. There was a 57% increase in mortality, in death from breast cancer in those who reported low support.
Wow.
So again, in an ideal treatment strategy, it goes beyond food and goes into your soul and your mind and your heart and your laughter and your joy, because what is happening on that level translates into that microenvironment again of inflammation. Stress comes from feeling isolated and alone and lonely and angry and scared. And stress translates into adrenal output that translates into stress hormones, so it's all connected. And people kind of say mind, body, soul connection as kind of flippantly, but no, the mind controls the body and the body controls the mind. It is very, very difficult to put your shoulders up and your head high and smile big and get really sad about dying puppies. Like, you just can't, because what you've triggered with your body motion is emotion, is neurotransmitters, chemicals, brain chemicals that are saying it's happy time.
Right.
Right. So there, in an ideal setting would be that. There would also be attention toward what else is happening just naturally. Exercise, alcohol, what is your weight level? Do we need to work on getting to an ideal body weight? What are the environmental toxicities in your home, in your car, in your work, in your life? Easy ones to get rid of. Maybe we could just add a little aloe vera plant in the corner of your bedroom to pull out the formaldehyde that's coming off of the mattress, right? Like there are improvements that can be made that aren't costly, that don't require an educational seminar that goes on for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that would have been ideal. So we take care of the food component, which becomes your insides, and then your mental insides with psychosocial support, and then some practical things that we know are so important, which is exercise and environmental toxicity cleanup.
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay, let's do it.
You know, the wonderful thing is that what you're talking about isn't just fighting cancer, it's loving life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the principles you're describing create a more satisfying and a more fulfilling experience of living.
I mean, the ultimate goal is joy.
Right.
To really embrace life and friendships and love. Otherwise, it does feel empty.
Yeah, I mean, we want a life that's worth living, like truly to fully inhabit our days. And we want lots of those days.
Exactly.
To extend that life worth living. You referred to one particular substance that I know you have researched quite a bit, and that's IGF-1 and its role in fueling cancer. And I don't know if a lot of our participants right now are fully familiar with the significance of IGF-1. So can you tell us, what is it, what does it do, and where does it come from?
Right. So IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor, is like insulin, and it is the big daddy inside your body that runs around and screams at all of your cells to grow, grow, grow. So grow they will, and we are very grateful for that, because get ready for this number. We turn over 50 trillion cells a day in our bodies, and something's got to be busy with the recreation and replacement of all of those cells. For example, your stomach lining, every 24 hours, new set of cells in there. And you are familiar on the external side, like your skin, right? You can see the cells shed. If you get a sunburn, the new layer comes. So IGF-1 is responsible for doing that. It is our growth promoter. And your brain tells your liver how much IGF-1 is needed for the day, basically. So the only way to get an excess of IGF-1, it turns out, is to consume animal protein. When you consume animal protein, IGF-1 skyrockets. And you think, well, that's not so bad. It can just do the daily job faster, right? But no, there's too much of it, more than there is IGF-1 binding protein, which is like a body snatcher that retires this IGF-1 from circulation. So now you've eaten, say, a turkey sandwich for lunch, IGF-1 goes through the roof, and it's busy saying, grow, grow, grow. But your cell turnover, we already had that amount of IGF-1. So now we're into grow atherosclerotic plaque to become the #1 killer of you and everyone you love, heart disease or stroke, right? Grow fat, grow a cancer cell from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 double time, right? So an excess of IGF-1 is really, when you study it in humans, required for cancer. So a couple of things to bring this to an easier way to understand. There are people in Ecuador who have an abnormality called Laron syndrome. They are born without IGF-1 receptors. So they have some, but they can't use it. So it's like they have no IGF-1. And they are all medically dwarfs, right? Because why? They can't grow. They could never grow. So here's the kicker. No one in the history of the world with Laron syndrome has ever had breast cancer. In fact, no one has had any kind of cancer except one woman once with ovarian cancer, which is, a reportable phenomenon then. So we have an entire syndrome where cancer can't happen because you need IGF-1 for cancer to happen. No one with Laron syndrome has ever had diabetes. That's another one. So IGF-1 is a root source in pancreatic burnout and type 2 diabetes. It's really incredible. So when you look at, there was a study of over 6,700 adults that were followed between 55 and 65 years old, and they tracked their meat consumption. And there was an astounding 400% increase in cancer, all cancers, men and women, 400% increase in high versus low meat consumption, and a 7,300%, 73 times more diabetes in high versus low meat consumption. And you know what else about that study? This is not meat consumers versus vegans. This is just high versus low, right? You're still getting meat versus meat, and more meat is that bad that you can separate out a dramatic increase in cancer and diabetes. So IGF-1 is controllable by you. Here's my favorite study to tell women who come to me who maybe have breast cancer, they're 65, they're a little bit on the chunky side, and they're like, oh, doc, it's too late for me. I already have cancer. You know, I'm going to turn my life around now. Oh, yes, you are, sister. Listen to this study and it will encourage you. So they looked at 50 women, obese women. They took their blood, dripped it on a petri dish, blanketed with breast cancer cells. A few cells died because everybody alive has their immune system functional to some degree, right? And they drew their blood levels of IGF-1 and the IGF-1 binding protein. These women went away for a mere 12 days, and that's the key to the study. 12 days of following what's called the Pritikin plan. So eating a high-fiber, low-fat diet with daily exercise, and that for them was like, you know, sauntering for 30 minutes a day. So it was a vegetarian diet, no meat. And 12 days later, they came back, drew their blood, IGF-1 plummeted, binding protein skyrocketed, and here's the best part. Took that blood, put it on a new petri dish filled with breast cancer cells, and over 90% of the cells died on the spot. So in 12 days, these women had transformed their blood into a cancer-kicking machine. So when you ask what your aunt should have been told in the hospital treated for bladder cancer, she should have been told she has the power to become a cancer-kicking machine. Walking, living, breathing all day long, little missiles being flown at cancer cells, all because of a whole food plant-based diet and some other healthy lifestyle behaviors, exercise chief among them.
I'm getting chills. Wow, that's so exhilarating, really. Thank you. So the bottom line is it can happen fast.
So your body, we've been given such a forgiving vessel. Yes, it happens. So it's as if someone had been smoking your whole life right in your face. And it's all you've ever known. But just one day, inexplicably, they stop. They turn away. How long would it take before you were like, what's that smell? The smell of clean, fresh air. It would be almost instantaneous. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. So I want to ask you now, IGF-1, of course, is most of all, excess of IGF-1 is most of all fueled by animal products. Are there other things that fuel it, or is it really simply animal products and animal protein or animal fat, or what is it? What exactly is that mechanism?
It's a protein response. So any protein in excess of we could talk about soy. It's one of my favorite foods to break the myths on. But I'll tell you that soy consumption at 7 servings a day will elevate your IGF-1. So the IGF-1 doesn't usually elevate in response to any plant proteins, but a true excess, that's a lot of servings on a daily basis of soy-based products, but that will elevate your IGF-1. But it's always protein.
Yeah. Dr. Walter Longo, in doing research at University of Southern California, concluded ultimately after a major study that excess protein consumption or high protein diet was more impactful on life expectancy in a negative way than smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
I did not know that comparison, but I'm very familiar with Walter's work and that mTOR pathway that he uncovered, the pathway of aging. Well, if you think about it this way, what makes you age? Things like, it turns out it's the consumption of protein and it's the consumption of food altogether. In other words, fasting slows down the aging process. But when it comes to the food component of that, what makes you age fastest are going to be the things that bring you to your death faster, the things that promote heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, obesity, etc. So those things that are promoting that pathway, if you interrupt them, you'll live longer. And the way you interrupt them is to eat less animal protein.
So you're thinking that excess IGF-1 is caused by excess protein consumption, but somehow perhaps animal protein even more so than other forms. So if somebody's taking a big protein powder and they're getting 150 grams a day of protein, are you thinking if it's plant-based, they're going to have the same impact as somebody who's consuming 150 grams a day from animal products, or is it
No.
unclear right now?
No. I don't think it's been extremely well studied, but I can tell you from the soy data that I was researching. So you can have up to 6 servings and you're not going to impact IGF-1.
Okay.
So the plant-based protein, you can have a lot more volume before you even impact it. Just a nibble on the edge of a piece of bacon and boop, up goes the IGF-1.
Okay, got it. So now on the flip side, a lot of people are worried about getting enough protein, right? And obviously we do need enough. And we need enough of all the different critical amino acids. And yet it's seemingly not that difficult. But what is your thought about it for people who are worried about enough protein on a plant-based diet? Now, recognizing the average American probably gets about twice as much as they need. But the average vegetarian gets a lot less than the average omnivore. So right. How do we address that concern about enough and amino acid balance?
Yeah, our diseases on Earth, for the most part, but 100% in America, are not diseases of deficiency. They're diseases of excess, right? Kwashiorkor is the fancy name given to a protein deficiency. There's nobody in America right now with kwashiorkor. So you don't have to hyper-focus on counting grams of protein to meet your probably 45 to 55 or 60 grams that they would say are required a day in order to maintain health. You really, when you're truly eating a whole food plant-based diet, whether it's tofu or soy milk and other soy products, seitan, those are the highest grams of protein. It would just be 2.5 servings of that and boom, you're at your limit for the day. Not limit, but you've hit your quota. But beans, peas, nuts, lentils, these all have so much protein that it's an overemphasis that doesn't have a place. Nobody is protein deficient. They just aren't. Well, I don't want to say nobody blanket, there are disease processes that lead people to struggle and need to have some protein supplementation. But just for the average person who's trying to maximize his or her health, it's very easy to recognize that the protein in just any given meal with some, even rice. I mean, even plants have protein, right? We think about, where do you get your protein if you are an omnivore? You're getting it from these fairly large animals, right? Cows and pigs, but maybe buffalo. You think about other animals on Earth like a rhinoceros. They're all herbivores. They're not worried about, did I have enough today? Did I get what I need? And they're massive. They are just chunks of meat. So if they're not worried about it, I don't think you should be either.
Yeah. You touched on soy a couple times. There's some controversy about soy. On the one hand, some people say that it brings down estrogen levels, that it helps fight breast cancer. On the other hand, we have some people who say that soy causes Alzheimer's and dementia, that it makes men less manly, that it's feminizing. A lot of different opinions on the topic. Obviously, part of our context here is that most of the soy in the United States is genetically engineered, sprayed with Roundup, and has its own issues there. But focusing, let's say for the moment, on organic soy, or soy that isn't genetically engineered as our point of context here, what's your take?
Okay, so you're right. Organic soy, the glyphosate content, et cetera, GMO. Here's the thing though, it's either 94 or 96% of our crops are GMO soy, but that is almost completely fed to the livestock. So if you're not eating the livestock, you're getting the non-GMO and organic soy products. So when you look at the body of literature, looking at phytoestrogens like the genistein in soy, right? These isoflavones were thought to hit estrogen receptors, and we know that 80% of all breast cancers are fed and fueled by estrogen. So you would conclude that, all right, here's an estrogen receptor sitting on a cancer cell, and when a phytoestrogen hits this receptor, it's going to send a signal over here to the cancer to multiply and divide. All right, well, here's actually what's happening. I heard that, understood it very minimally, and told all of my patients for 18 years straight as a breast cancer surgeon that you should avoid soy. So mea culpa, I was embarrassingly wrong when I did my dive into nutritional science again to write about soy, to vilify it, to tell my patients in the book, here's why you don't eat soy. I was like, whoop. 2 receptors in your body. Alpha is on the cancer cell. Beta is the one that, with 1,600% more affinity, the genistein and the isoflavones prefer. What happens when soy hits beta? It shuts alpha down. So it's a cancer blocker in that respect. And it goes out into the peripheral fat cells, where we all have an enzyme called aromatase that's busy all day churning steroids from your adrenal gland into more estrogen, and it shuts it down. So it overall lowers estrogen. If that's true, then we should see less breast cancer in high versus low soy consumers. And there are a number of studies. The biggest one is in a Korean population because they eat enough soy to differentiate high and low. 73,000 women followed, and those who consumed the most soy in adolescence had a 60% drop in premenopausal breast cancer. So, okay, that's amazing.
Yes.
But what if you've had breast cancer? What if it were an estrogen-driven? What if you're on tamoxifen, which, by the way, if you don't know, is an estrogen decoy that hits the alpha receptor and blocks it like a car sitting in a parking spot so that your own estrogen can't fuel the cancer. All right, so what if you're on that drug? Then you should probably stay away from soy, right? Well, until 2009, we didn't know. Since 2009, there have been 8 human studies, multi-ethnic, so we're not just looking into Asian populations because maybe it was the green tea, maybe, right? Other things that they do socially that the rest of the world doesn't. Okay, so now we're looking at Americans and multi-ethnic, high versus low consumption, cancer patients. Studies vary, but between 30 and 60% less cancer recurrence in soy consumers and 29% less death. So soy is categorically safe, and not only is it safe, but it helps reduce the risk of getting cancer, of having it come back once you're diagnosed, and reduces dying from it. So definitely soy it up. Always non-GMO, preferably organic, of course. And the fermented soy, so tempeh, miso, natto, which is a little hard to digest, not digest, to palate.
Hard to taste.
To palate, yes.
It's an acquired taste.
It is. And tamari, the fermented soy sauces. These are fermented and are a little easier on your digestion, actually. But they're not as ubiquitous and tasty and easy to find. So the next category, by the way, would be the category of foods like soy milk, tofu, edamame, soybeans that were studied in the studies because people weren't in this fermented group that were analyzed. So it's fine. The one I would stay away from or not think that you're getting all of the healthful bang for your buck is in the soy protein isolate. It's been so modified from its phytonutrient awesomeness that it probably has very little to no beneficial effects.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. So that's soy. What are some of your other top anti-cancer foods?
Berries. I love berries. I have a smoothie that the kids have at least 4 mornings a week that has a base of soy milk and 2 cups of berries. The procyanidins in there, these chemicals, have such anti-neoplastic properties that it's a must-have on a daily basis. Here's a tip. Frozen is actually more powerful than fresh. So fresh, sometimes I'll spend extra and I'll think, oh, because they're, whatever, you get an extra thing, spend extra, you get a raspberry, little tiny thing, like $4.50, whatever. And then you get home and you're like, did I not look at this? Like the 2 on the bottom are full of mold, so it's nice to know that your bag of frozen actually breaks down the cell wall. And so the chemicals are released faster into your system. I pop them into steel cut oats to cool them off, then they're ready to go. And you just eat the oats with little, I always throw flaxseed. So another powerful food for me is flaxseed. There was a study looking at women diagnosed with atypical cells or cancer, and they had 3 weeks to go until their operation to remove the cancer, okay, or the atypia. So half of them were given a flaxseed muffin and half of them were given a placebo muffin to eat daily. Yep. And what they measured on the biopsy, on the biopsied mass was something called a Ki-67. It's a division rate. It's a measure of how many cells under the microscope are 1 becoming 2 right now. So lower is better. Amazingly, in just 3 weeks, those who had eaten the flaxseed muffin on the excised tumors, when they remeasured the Ki-67, it had dropped by 80% in all of the flax eaters. So what in the world is happening with flax is besides being the most concentrated source of healthy omega-3 fats on planet Earth, it is packed more than any other food with lignans, which are also anti-estrogens, working on those receptors as we talked about with soy. So flax, I get 1, sometimes 2 tablespoons of ground flax seeds. Don't consume whole flax. Your body can't digest the hull and you're just gonna whoop it straight out. So always ground. Tip there, if you have ground flax seeds, put them in the fridge. They'll last 3 months before they go rancid. But honestly, you should be through that bag in like 6 weeks if you're having the required amount. And if you have a coffee grinder, you can just put your whole flax in there and it zips up into ground really easily. Another favorite food is mushrooms. So you look at mushrooms and you think, oh, it's probably going to be, you know, the chanterelle or the portobello, like the fancier, more expensive mushroom. Nope, it is the tiny little white button and just the size of your thumb a day drops breast cancer appreciably. Why? Because it has aromatase inhibitor activity. That is that enzyme out in the fat cells that we talked about. So little button mushroom. Tip here, always steam or otherwise cook a mushroom for at least 60 seconds before you eat it to get rid of this poison toxin in there. Called a guaranteed, but just 1 minute of cooking will do it. But it's funny because all the mushrooms on salad bars are raw and really they shouldn't be.
Yes, absolutely.
King amongst every vegetable on planet Earth is broccoli or just the whole cruciferous vegetable family. So, you know, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, kale, arugula, cauliflower. And these isothiocyanate that come from the cruciferous vegetables are a must do every day. So if there are 3 things I do every day, it's a half a cup at least of raw or lightly steamed broccoli. I'm so sorry. Okay. This is because there's an enzyme in the broccoli little cell wall called myrosinase that's taking a precursor isothiocyanate into the magical green superhero caped sulforaphane. Yeah. And when you cook broccoli, you're going to destroy myrosinase and you cannot create the sulforaphane. You'll still get some great phytonutrient goodness out of that vegetable, but not nearly as much as if it's raw or lightly steamed. So I always do half a cup of that. I have 2 to 3 servings of soy a day, and I have that tablespoon of ground flax every day.
Yay. Sounds great. This is a feast for your body. This is a feast for your health that we're talking about right here. And one of the keys that I just want to underline for people who are hearing about this thinking, well, that sounds like it's healthy, but it doesn't sound tasty. You can learn to love foods that love you back. And that's one of the arts of a cancer kicking life is it's not something you drag yourself through. It's something you learn to really enjoy and take pleasure in. And I think there is infinitely more pleasure in simple foods that help you love life, that help your blood to flow through every cell in your body, that help your body to say yes with vitality and aliveness, that give you a clear mind, that give you vibrancy in your step and bounce in your step, than in foods that are tasty in the short run, but drag you down your spirits, your vitality, your energy, and ultimately cost you your life. And we want to help you have pleasure along the way so that you can enjoy those tasty, fabulous foods. And it does take some habit change, but it's totally possible to actually crave broccoli, to actually look forward to those flax seeds. And your oatmeal just isn't the same without them. And that's one of the things we'll talk at the end of this a little more about Whole Life Club, where we really walk you through how to implement all this so you can gain traction and get results. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Is making it actually happen in your life. And Kristi, I want to underline one thing you mentioned back to flax seeds for a second, because I find this really interesting. A lot of us think about flax oil as a rich source of omega-3s, which it is, and that's a good thing. But we miss the fact that flax has so many other wonderful compounds. There's the fiber, which is wonderful for our microbiome. It's wonderful for clearing out our digestive tract. It's rich in the lignans you were talking about earlier, which are health superstars. And it's a rich source of protein. So basically, when you take ground flaxseed and you extract the oil, you're just throwing away all that other stuff. You're throwing away the lignans and the fiber and the protein, which are also fabulous. So nothing against flax oil, but let's face it, let's get real food as much as possible. So that ground flaxseed is a wonderful tip. And people can do the same with chia seed, by the way. You can grind it up as well. And it also has its own fabulous nutritional profile. And you're getting lots of omega-3s that way too. And you're also getting all these other elements that are great for you. So let's talk for a little bit though about supplements, because obviously when you extract things from the whole, you lose something.
Right.
But some people look at vitamins A and C and E in particular and see some link to anti-cancer. Is that true only when they're in our diet, or is there sometimes benefit from supplementing with those or other things?
I find that there are a few supplements that those who are following a whole food plant-based diet fairly rigorously should pay attention to. The rest could be helpful in studies. Most of the well-done studies just show you're creating expensive urine from certain supplements. But the biggies to pay attention to would be vitamin D. So that's the sunshine vitamin, and you need about 2,000 IU a day. So that would be a supplement worth investigating. That's plus 12 minutes of sunshine on skin that doesn't have suntan lotion on it, or, you know, SPF on it. So for those of the people who are above and below 40 degrees latitude, that becomes problematic, and they probably need to supplement year round, but especially in the winter dark months, with more than 2,000. And we're talking usually 5,000. Almost all of my breast cancer patients go on a really high regimen. If they're at all low in D, they'll get 50,000 units a week until we check their blood levels and they're the right level, and then they can drop down and usually supplement with 5,000. So D is a really important vitamin to make sure that you're not lacking in. Another supplement for a true vegan eater is going to potentially be the omega-3, the DHA, right, and the EPA fatty acids, because you have your omega-3 coming from flax and all these other wonderful foods, and it needs to link together. So that's an essential fatty acid. So you need that one, and then it has to link together to become the other fatty acids that we need. And if you don't have enough of the omega-3, you might be not making enough of the others. So that might be a supplement also that you consider taking. There are very few others that I'm really adamant about. I think if you're eating well, you're not going to need the extra vitamin A or the calcium. You get it out of your foods.
Yeah. Thank you. And obviously, sometimes supplements are beneficial when you're low in something, but beyond getting your basic levels in place, more isn't necessarily better. And so if you're eating a whole foods plant-centered diet, you can easily get a blood test to check out how you're doing. And if you are low in something, then maybe the first step is, why aren't you absorbing it properly? And are you eating enough? And then in some rare cases, maybe some supplementation can be advisable. But as you said, a lot of people are just getting expensive urine. And ultimately, we want our nutrients from food as much as possible. I want to turn now to some of the questions from our Whole Life Club members. We heard from Glenda, who said, Dr. Kristi, you are my hero. Yeah. I pre-ordered your book. Once it was released, I read it twice, adopted your science-backed suggestions, and have given your book as gift to friends. I'm wondering if you have any suggestions in dealing with developing fibrocystic breasts in the late 60s. The common answer given is it's hormonal. I eat a whole foods plant-based diet. I'm very active, slim, have a yearly diagnostic mammogram and doctor's breast exam. Any suggestions for someone experiencing these symptoms?
Well, first of all, Glenda, thank you for your kind words. And I'm so happy that my book inspired you to make changes and you're giving it as gifts to others. So fibrocystic breast, it used to be called fibrocystic disease, but that word disease was a little bit too damning. It's not even true. It's not a disease. You're just genetically born with breasts that have components that are a little denser with tiny, tiny little cystic spaces. And it is these areas of the breast that tend to be most hormonally sensitive. So especially if you're pre-menopausal, and when you menstruate at ovulation and right before your period, you get a little uptick in estrogen. It saturates the estrogen receptors on the natural breast tissue. These fibrocystic areas swell, they bump into nerves, they cause pain, discomfort. The important thing to know, in case you don't know, is that having fibrocystic breasts doesn't make you more at risk for breast cancer. And the tenderness is not like a little whispering of like, I'm making one, you know, it's just that the areas are denser. And it is partially hormonally created, but really it depends on the genetic patchwork you inherited from both your parents of what your breast anatomy will be like with fibrocystic. So if the concern is that the fibrocystic disease is dense, which it is, And on mammogram, it's making the detection of cancer more difficult. So we grade breast density A through D. C's and D's have more dense breast tissue showing up as a white splotchy snowstorm on mammogram, as opposed to A's and B's who have more fat than they do dense breasts. The fat is always black or gray on mammo, and cancer is always white. So the denser your breast, the whiter your mammogram, and now you're looking for a cancerous snowball in a snowstorm. So if you have dense breasts, we advise that you add whole breast screening ultrasound to your screening regimen. And if your other concern is that your breasts are just tender and it hurts and they're lumpy because the fibrocystic breasts are tender, a combination of taking evening primrose oil, 1,500 milligrams twice a day, with vitamin E, 1,200 IU a day, is a magical combination against breast pain. We actually have a Primrose Pain Buster product that combines those and is really masterful at helping with hormonally mediated fibrocystic breast pain.
Great, thank you. We had a question from Glenda that I think you already answered, specifically asking about mammograms and their accuracy with dense breast tissue. So we'll move along because you covered that one too. Judy did ask, are mammograms dangerous? If so, should thermography replace them? Where do you go for mammograms and who can read them effectively?
Okay, Judy, this is a good question because the truth is, yes, mammograms can cause breast cancer. And when you look at the hard facts on this, if you take 10,000 women who are getting annual mammograms between 40 and 74 years old, we will create 8.6 cancers that never would have happened from the radiation exposure of all of those annual mammograms. However, we will have identified and diagnosed 860. So we find 100 times more cancers than are caused by mammography. And that becomes a delicate and somewhat difficult cost-benefit analysis, right? Of, well, then is that worth it? Well, it's not that there's 8.6 cancer deaths, but it is, cancers. And there's nothing unique about those cancers that screams out, like has a little sign like radiation induced. It doesn't look different or have a marker or something. So we don't really know, like, oh, that's a radiation cancer. So you yourself as a patient would never know, oh, this was from all those mammograms that I got. I don't like thermography for breast. It just is not very accurate at all. I mean, I have spent 20 plus years looking at it, hoping that it would work because it's such beautiful technology because it has like no toxicity whatsoever, right? It's just analyzing heat patterns. And then I have tracked down so many swirling patterns of red and blue and green on a abnormal thermogram to kind of decipher what it all meant. And it's just the simple fact that if we're going to introduce a new technology to take over mass screening for breast, it needs to at least match the current standard of care in terms of detection, and then improve upon the toxicity profile, right? And thermography does the latter, but it doesn't at all improve on detection and misses cancer at a rate that is pretty phenomenal to me. I mean, actually, it's funny, just last week, I saw someone with cancer in all 4 quadrants of her breast, and she said, but how can that be? I had a thermography just last week and it was fine, like the week before she saw me. And it's just inaccurate. It gets a little confused by other things that create extra blood flow and emanate heat, cysts, fibrocystic changes. Depending on how your diet and hormones, that can change the blood flow on a minute-to-minute basis. And so, no, I don't like thermography.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Denise said, Dr. Funk, so grateful to be able to talk to you. I have osteoporosis, stage 2 kidney disease, and prediabetes. Is it good to drink apple cider vinegar every morning to address the above? I also have high levels of potassium and need a plant-based diet. How do I improve my levels and kidney function since most plants have potassium?
What a great question. So first of all, I think that the main thing you need to know about osteoporosis is that nothing ever can substitute for weight-bearing exercise. And that doesn't have to be pumping iron in a gym. You are bearing your own weight when you take a couple steps up a flight of stairs, or even just going for a brisk walk along a bike path or something. Well, maybe not a bike path, I don't want to get hit by a bike, but along a nice path there. So there's no, apple cider vinegar may have some beneficial effects for osteoporosis, but there's no substitute for at least 20 minutes twice a week of dedicated weight-bearing exercise, which, as I said, can be as simple as walking, but lifting some 2-pound weights, if that's all you can do, would also be helpful for bone development and growth. There's no food that's going to pack back that lost bone. So there's no substitute for that. And then in terms of having the high potassium, because of your kidney disease, that may be part of the problem. So you do need to focus more on lower potassium foods, but I wouldn't like eliminate like your greens, for example, that we know are high in potassium, because they carry so many other helpful benefits. That's something, though, that I haven't studied well enough to advise you. Like, I don't have a dietary plan, like focus on these. But Ocean, you might actually know more about which foods might temper potassium levels than I do.
That's not something I've ever dug into, actually.
Okay.
But
So she's giving us some curveballs. But I do think that that's researchable. There definitely are going to be certain foods in our plant family that will be safer for someone with kidney disease. And as far as the type 2 diabetes goes, I mean, this is all kind of full circle, because the more you are doing the weight-bearing exercise and getting a little bit of cardio in there, the more insulin sensitivity you will start to develop, and that your insulin requirements will go down. And when you really focus on the whole foods and try to eliminate the processed foods and every last bit of the animal kingdom that's entering into your diet, it's pretty hard for your body to stay insulin resistant. You really should see a precipitous drop in your requirements within 6 months.
Thank you. Robin said, question for Dr. Funk. What is your thought on eating 50% of whole food plant-based diet as being raw food, 50% cooked? I have had breast cancer, no surgery, chemo, and she said no surgery, chemo, and surgery. I'm not quite sure what that means, but she said, I'm not asking for medical advice. It's more about the right kind of nutrient density as a balance. Basically, she's asking about the optimal amount of raw. I strongly believe in food as medicine. And I'm wondering for your take on this.
All right. Well, first of all, congratulations on being a thriver. And I'm so proud of you for taking the reins on your own health and espousing a plant-based diet. And I encourage you just to take a deep breath and exhale. The raw versus cooked, there are benefits and detriments to both, actually. And so just maintaining a healthy balance of whatever works in that meal. Like I said, there's pearls here and there. Like, mushrooms should be cooked for a little bit, and the broccoli should not be cooked because of the myrosinase issue. So, but just getting kind of a healthy mixture of it as you're doing. I wouldn't overly concentrate on 50%. Like, oh, well, it was one too many cooked carrots. The fact that it's all plants is amazing, and you're going to get those phytonutrients in your body one way or another. And if you were supposed to eat one raw and you cooked it instead, so you have a lesser level of an awesome phytonutrient flying around. I would take the sweat out of that one. I wouldn't worry about.
We actually did a whole report on raw and cooked, and the high level is some foods have more bioavailability cooked, some have more bioavailability raw. And their whole plant foods are good for you in every form, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's the upshot of it. And you could get really detailed about, okay, I'm going to get this much raw and this much cooked. And at the end of the day, you also have to remember that your own peace and joy is a big health indicator as well. So getting stressed about food is not good for your health. So surrounding yourself with lots of good, healthy foods is good. And the best way to eat kale, for example, is the way that gets you to eat it. So there may be some benefit to raw. There's definitely some benefit to cooked. And there's benefit to kale in any form, pretty much, except maybe deep fried. So enjoy your healthy foods, and they'll love you back. And there is some interesting breakthroughs around chewing of cruciferous vegetables and saliva and the isothiocyanates that are released when you chew them. So getting a little bit of raw cruciferous veggies in the mix can be really beneficial, even if it's a little bit, a little bit of raw cabbage sprinkled, grated and sprinkled into a casserole at the end before it doesn't get cooked can add some significant benefit. So that's a little hack, if you will.
Another great tip about why chewing would be healthful, besides mixing up those enzymes more completely so that you're getting all of the phytonutrient awesomeness, is that in studies, and I wasn't the researcher on this one, studying farts. So it turns out that 80% of the gas we pass comes from swallowed air. So obviously, a lot of us who are new to whole food plant-based lifestyle find themselves a little on the gassy side. But one of the biggest tricks to decreasing gas is to chew your food till it's really a puree, because you're letting go of those tiny little bits. Like if you take a fork full of salad, think about how much air is in between all the lettuce and little cucumbers and stuff. And you take 3-4 chews and swallow, like many Americans on the go and just mindless, right? Reading emails or whatnot while they're eating. If you focus, you don't even have to focus. If you just know that you're chewing it till it's puree and swallowing, you're getting rid of excess air.
There's a couple other key benefits to that as well. Your saliva goes to work, and actually digestion begins in the mouth. And so you will get more absorption of your food if you chew it well. Over time, chewing well can actually change the flavor of food. You may have experienced this. I remember once when I was a kid it was in a little contest in school in like first grade. And some friends and I were like, how long can we chew a bite of brown rice? And we literally chewed it until it turned into this liquid soup in our mouths, and everyone was like drooling. But the amazing thing that none of us expected was that it actually got sweet. It became almost sugary. And so we were releasing all the sugars just through the chewing process. It was a fascinating experience. We have one last question here, which I think is a good one to wrap up on. It's from Pamela, who said, I'm 70, recently retired, and so far pretty healthy. Are there cancer statistics that tell us what our chances are at what age? The
chances of, so you've never had cancer, right? And so the chances of getting cancer are, as we probably have heard, 1 in 8 breast cancer, right? That's before you add in having a gene mutation such as BRCA. And that 1 in 8 statistic is pulled out over an entire lifetime. So I can tell you very specifically, yes, looking at the entirety of the United States, here are your chances of getting breast cancer between the ages of 20 and 30. So as a 20-something, getting breast cancer in that decade is a chance of 1 out of 1,587. Between 30 and 40, it's 1 in 220. Between 40 and 50, it's 1 in 68. Between 50 and 60, it's 1 in 42. Between 60 and 70, it's 1 in 29. And between 70 and 80, it's 1 in 27. So 1 in 27 that you will get breast cancer in the next 10 years of your life.
That's statistically if you're an average American living and eating in the average American way.
Exactly.
But of course, if you are doing things differently, then perhaps those numbers can shift in your favor.
Well, there's no doubt that so when you add in all those 1-ins that I said, you end up with a lifetime risk of 1 in 8. But then you start factoring in things like the study I said, if you are a high versus low soy consumer, you're going to drop breast cancer by 60%. So now you're, 1 in, well, now I can't do my own math, but 1 in 15. So it's really hard to get to an actual personalized number, but you know that this healthful living that you're doing is putting you on the healthy end of this spectrum. Yeah,
and those statistics you just gave were for breast cancer, but probably, although they're going to vary by different cancers, and obviously men will be different than women, the point holds in general. Your odds increase as you get older with most types of cancer, and they go down dramatically with living a healthy lifestyle. So, Kristi, I just want to say thank you so much for your brilliant leadership, for your wisdom, for your passion, for your scholarly research, for your dedication to making it accessible, for the work you are doing that could eventually render breast surgery to some kind of boutique art because so many people don't need it anymore.
I would love that.
And, I hope you're successful in working yourself out of a job eventually. I think we got a ways to go on that, unfortunately, but you are leading the charge towards healthier lives for all of us. And I'm so grateful. And I know all of our participants are as well.
Ocean, thank you. I'm so grateful for being part of your platform, and thank you for inviting me today.
Okay, so for everybody who is here right now, I just want to say that in a moment we're going to say goodbye to Kristi. I want to invite you and in fact encourage you to stay on. If you're not already a member of Whole Life Club, I want to encourage you to stay on to learn more about how it can work for you to help you apply everything we're talking about. Again, Kristi, thank you so much for joining us today, and we wish you a beautiful day.
Bye.
Bye. And now we're going to make our transition. So again, please stay on if you want to learn more about Whole Life Club and how you can take action to get results in your life. So every month we've got a theme in Whole Life Club. We've had themes in the past few months like brain health, heart health, anti-cancer living, blood sugar balance, boosting your energy levels. And every month we got a theme. It's kind of like a mini course on that theme. And with that theme, we have an action hour presentation from a guest expert. You can submit questions in advance. You get the transcripts, you get follow-up action checklists, lifetime access to the recordings. And every month we have a weekly action of the week video, a short, like 3-4 minute video from me with a simple action step you can take that week to keep making progress towards your goals. Every week you get a new batch of recipes, delicious, whole foods, plant-powered recipes that help you boost your energy, fight cancer, fight heart disease, balance blood sugar levels, whatever the goal is that month. The weekly recipes help you move forward towards that goal, featuring the foods that will help you thrive. And then every week you get an action checklist with a few very simple steps you can take to keep making progress towards your goals. You get a community of support. You get specific prompting questions to stimulate discussion and connection with other community members on the topics at hand. And all of this is just part of the journey. If you've ever been in a car and you've floored it, let's say, or pushed the gas down and you experience this kind of surge at your back, you experience the car kind of pressing you forward. That's what we want to create here. Whole Life Club is like a vehicle. You are the author of where you want to go, what you want for your health, what you want for your life, and we're here to help you succeed and make progress towards your goals unstoppably and even easily. And it's like a force of gravity that keeps going and keeps going and keeps guiding you forward. So it picks you up when times get tough. It gets you back on track when you start to lose your way. Like a GPS, if you get lost, it just redirects and pulls you back on the route. So there are going to be times in your life when it may be easy and painless and smooth to do the right thing. There might be other times when it gets more difficult, and that's when you need it the most. Our goal is to help you be able to go fast without falling off the wagon, so you can stay on your path and keep returning and make it the path of least resistance to have healthy habits and love the foods that love you back. Whole Life Club is an ongoing community of support. And recently I got to chat with one of our members, Jean from New Jersey, about how the club was impacting her life. And she said she'd like to share her experience with all of our community and with you. So now let's go ahead and roll the video so you can see what she had to say. Here we go.
My name is Jean, and I'm from New Jersey. I think my health journey, and it's been a journey, started when I went to the doctor and got a very bad cholesterol report. This was one time, and I was shocked to see that the doctor immediately took out a pad and wanted to write me a prescription for the rest of my life to be on statins. Well, that didn't sit well with me, so I left and tried to remediate my health myself. I came across the Food Revolution Summit and really just soaked that all up. I determined that my husband and I would be eating plant-based meals every other day. And then when I had all that head knowledge, it was, life gets in the way. It was difficult to implement on a steady course. And plus, I'm the only one of my friends and acquaintances who had that knowledge. And therefore, I really didn't have support among the people that I see every day. So my mind was flooded with information, but I needed implementation. And that's why when you introduced Whole Life Club, I immediately jumped on it. I think I was probably the first person to sign up. And that's been just wonderful experience for me. It strengthens my resolve. It equips me with tools. And the tools are so useful to me personally in my busy life. I love the fact that there's so many aspects to improving our health. It's not only the sleep, the quality of the sleep that we get, but the exercise. not just what we put in our mouths, but the cosmetics, the toothpaste, the dish soap that we use. Where do you start with all of that? It's overwhelming. But in Whole Life Club, I'm getting little sound bites from you each week. And they're definitely easy. Who doesn't have 10 minutes to listen to this week's video? Everyone does. And, you give the presentation. It's grounded in science. You give the explanation, and then you give the challenge. And that's what I love about it. It sort of comes to me in sound bites, which fits into my busy life. I love the recipes. Now, I've often asked myself, why didn't I just go out and get a recipe book on plant-based eating? I don't know why. But when I look forward to those 5 or 6 recipes every week, I have trained myself to download a couple of them and make sure that I implement 1 or 2 that week. It makes it easy for me because it's coming at me in manageable amounts. I love that there are hints there about making them gluten-free, about making them dairy-free. So that helps me when I'm entertaining friends who have certain dietary needs. And I love that I found out about new foods. I had never heard of farro before. I never knew what that was. I never knew there were so many beans. Brownies made out of beans. I love the fact that you have the interviews and that I can watch them at my leisure. I don't always have time for an hour to listen attentively, but when I do want to watch, they're available. Or if I want to rewatch, I love that. And I also love that the social platform that you've chosen is something other than Facebook. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with Facebook, and I wouldn't, shall we say, post as willingly if it were Facebook. So it's an affordable way for me to maintain a consistency in my journey to better health. And I just love the fact that it's, like I said, sound bites. It fits into my schedule. And I did very well. Within 5 months, I went back for another checkup, and my report was perfect. So you see, I could have gone down a very slippery slope, which would not have been at all good for my health. I want to take control of my own health. I don't want someone else making decisions for me, doctor or no doctor, because I found that most doctors want to write a prescription. I don't even take a pill, an aspirin. I don't think I've had an aspirin in a year. I don't want drugs. I don't want prescriptions. I want to heal myself naturally. And now I feel so empowered to do that. From what I've learned from this Whole Life Club, the information that you've given. 1 week it's protein, another week it's calcium. It's okay. I can handle it 1 week at a time, and I love knowing it for myself so that I can be my own advocate. Do it. You'll never regret it. Maximize your health. That's the most important thing we have. So you're a small investment in your life. Certainly the most valuable thing you can do for yourself. Skip a day at the spa or whatever else you would spend your money on. This is ongoing, sustainable, long-lasting, and I think so good for me personally. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much to Jean for sharing those inspiring words. And I want to say this, if you are feeling inspired, like you might want to implement what you're learning, if you are feeling like you want to ground this in your life, the inspiration, the whole foods plant-centered diet, a healthy lifestyle, if you want a community to back you up, then now is an amazing time to step forward. The doors are open right now for a special opportunity and a huge discount this week only to join Whole Life Club and make it all happen in your life. So I want to invite you and encourage you to step forward. I want to also let you know there is a 60-day total money back guarantee. So if you join as a member and it's not something that's rocking your world, if you're not loving it, then you can just simply notify us and get a prompt refund. But that doesn't happen very often because most folks who step into Whole Life Club stick. They stay and they love it. And recently we asked a bunch of our members what they were experiencing, and we heard the most heartwarming stories. People were getting off meds they didn't need anymore. They were losing weight that they had wanted to lose. They were having clearer minds, more fulfilling lives. And I think one of the things that I was happiest to see was that our members were having more pleasure and joy in their food lives. They were taking more enjoyment in healthy, fabulous food than they ever thought possible. And that's what I want for you. I want you to be able to love foods that love you back. I want you to be able to love your life. And I want you to be able to have the support you need so you can sustain and thrive. I'm sick and tired of so many people who get inspired and passionate and lit up, and then over time they fall backwards because we live in a society that can make it so hard to do the right thing, that feels like it pulls us off track over and over again because the status quo is a fast track to suffering and disease. But it doesn't have to be your fate. And with Whole Life Club, we designed it to help make it easier and easier for you to implement the surest and easiest, steadiest path to success. So if this sounds good to you, then I want to invite you to step forward and join us and take advantage of this special 40% discount opportunity that's only available this week while the doors are open for you right now. So go ahead and step forward if you're so inspired. And I want to invite you to make sure to join us for our next action hour in this series on Wednesday with Dr. Joel Fuhrman. We're going to be looking at how real nutrient density can transform your life. This is such an incredible week. I hope you got to join us with Dr. Barnard. I'm so glad you're here with us right now. I can't wait to share the time with Dr. Fuhrman with you. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Thank you for taking interest. Thank you for your curiosity. Thank you for your attention. And thank you for your partnership in this food revolution. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. I hope to see you in Whole Life Club. And I thank you so much for your partnership and your presence today. Have a beautiful, fabulous day. Enjoy some delicious, fabulous food. And I'll see you again soon. When it comes to cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic illness, what really matters isn't how many books you read, how many webinars you attend, or how much you know. What really matters at the end of the day is what you eat and how you live. The science has given us what we need to know. Now it's time for action. It's time to implement and optimize your healthy lifestyle. It's time to get results. It's time to say goodbye to confusion and hello to clarity. It's time to say goodbye to bad habits and hello to good ones. It's time to fall in love with foods that love you back. It's time to join a community that will support you in achieving your goals. It's time for Whole Life Club. Click the link to find out more and to join in now.